lounging, son.
All right, welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name is Ryan, and with me today for another indie creator spotlight is Kevin Anthony Catalan, and we are here to talk comics. We're going to talk his work. We've been trying to get something together for a while now, so it's I'm very happy we finally were able to lock down a time with both of our schedules. So welcome to the show, dude.
Thank you.
Yeah,
to be here. Yeah.
So for everybody, that's listening and watching, anybody that's seen any of these indie spotlights, I always like to ask you guys, like how you got into comic books as a kid and as a fan and stuff like that, and then how you turn that into, a cartooning career, if you will.
Yeah. For me, I actually started with animation. My dad was an animator. He worked for Warner Brothers, Disney, and a lot of studios during the 90s and 2000s. And I wanted to be an animator, but I wanted to tell stories, and my dad was like, "You're gonna take forever to do each frame." And I just did like a shot of a character I made, and it took me like a whole day of just him jumping. And he's like, "Have you heard of comics?" I'm like, "What?" Like, I've only seen him in newspapers, like you said. And he brought me to a comic store, and he got me to those dollar bins, and I just went through them and just got them, and then I just did what I saw. I didn't even know the structure. I just knew they put, like a frame per panel. And that was it. That's how I got into comics. And that was late. I was like 10 years old by that time.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it was mostly because of time. That was the main reason why I got into comics. And then further on in college is when I started delving into storytelling and comics more, and I started reading a lot more Image comics, like the newer ones, not the late ones. But yeah.
And do you remember what some of those first comic books were, and like what your initial?
Oh, it was some Wildstorm stuff. It was it was some like that no one has ever heard because they're all cheap. But my initial reaction was like, it was so digital at that point. It was like a lot of gradients. It was so weird for me because I've always been used to newspaper comics. When I would see them, it's either black and white or those very heavy inked ones.
Yeah.
And they're like, and it was in the Philippines, by the way. And so these were like cheap comics. After that, he showed me Akira. He had like a copy of the colored copy. What's his name? He did the coloring for it. Yeah,
Steve
you know what I'm
Olive.
talking about. Yeah, Steve Olive. He had like the volume 3 of it, and then that was my better impression of what comics is at that time. But it was so bloody, but then I loved it. And so it was a shock to me comparing to animation, where it's just colored in cells and it's plain colors. And then from comics to that, it was like a big shock. But
yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting that for time, because you wanted to draw, you wanted to tell stories visually with by drawing them.
Yeah,
you did comics because it's quicker. I mean, it is essentially.
It is. Like for animation, my dad, he would be given a script or he would be given a scene, right? And then so he would just illustrate that scene. He doesn't have to tell. I mean, he's telling a story through body language and such, but it's not his story. You're hired to do that at least for what he did. And for me, I didn't have that access to as of now I do animation on computer. And then he was I'm doing traditional on paper, and that's hard to bring about. So I started using his animation paper, and I would staple it like a saddle stitch. And I would do that because that was my impression of like the comics I got was the floppies. And so I was like, oh, this is probably how they drew it too. Instead of single sheets and scanning it, I just drew it as a floppy. It was pretty funny.
That's awesome, dude. I like that story. I mean, I think it's funny. Wildstorm is like the stuff that you remember.
Yeah,
and I agree.
I do remember getting like some those, like it was like early 2000s, the pencils. They don't put inks anymore. They just pencil it and color it. And that was so weird to me because it was, I'm not used to that. I was always been used to inks, and so yeah.
And it is weird. I mean, you see less and less of. I mean, at least to what I'm seeing too, like in comics nowadays, you don't see inkers always on stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be there always was an inker, and even if it said pencils and inks by, now it just says straight artists, and it's kind of weird how so much of that aspect of the comic book seems like it's being phased out a little bit. Because,
definitely.
To me it kind of sucks because it's always nice, like you could tell like when an inker is adding their flourishes to the pencils, especially like a Klaus Janson, right?
I was just thinking about that. Yeah,
Yeah, like I was just listening to the interview on the
Hmm.
Kayfabe channel, right? So I was like, oh man, dude, like just like hearing him describe the inking process,
Hmm.
working with somebody like Frank Miller or John Romita Jr.,
Yeah, I
two
have
very
the Dark Knight, what do you call it? Uh
the
the
gallery edition.
yeah, the artist edition, yeah.
Oh,
And there's some in there where Frank Miller didn't like the way Klaus Jensen inked it, and so he
mhm.
would do his inks, and I'm just trying to compare them. Like it's very different the way the penciler and the inker would translate it,
Yeah.
and like that's missing for what now. But at the same time, I don't hate on both sides. I like seeing the teamwork or the singular work of one person.
Same. It's just weird to see like that it's phasing out more is what I'm
Yeah,
saying. You know
definitely.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's just like you see a colorist on the cover now, right? Like you see
Hmm.
their name.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, dude, I don't even know that I saw the inker. I feel like it was just the writer and the penciler would get the credit on the cover,
Yeah.
and then the inker got on there, and now the colorist is on there, and it's I don't know, it's weird to see the growth from like when I don't know what year you got into comics. You said
Oh,
2000, early
very
2000.
late, very late.
No,
I
but like
was
early 2000s. I don't know. I'm
late
probably
two
older than you.
thousands, late 2000s. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty young. It was
Okay.
like 2000, 2009.
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah. So I got into comics when I was 5, 92. So right when Image formed was when
Yeah,
you
that's when I was
know,
going through the dollar bins. It was like a bunch of old Image comics there,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I didn't know what I was looking at. So it was just whatever I looked cool. I would even look at it for the story, just whatever. Like, oh, this looks kind of cool, like something I would draw.
Yeah.
So
So I mean,
yeah,
obviously the visuals were more the draw for you, back
definitely.
then. Do you remember like the artists that really like once you started like looking at that and paying attention, like who did
Yeah,
this one, who did that?
I didn't actually look them up until high school. I forgot their names. They're not big names. That's the thing about them. There
Mhm.
was one that I did like a lot. It was Steel, DC. There's one artist, and this book was just like it was a lot of cross hatching with inks, and it was messy, and it was different from all the ones I got because they all kind of look uniform, like kind of a house style. And
Mhm.
this one stood out to me, but I never really looked up the name. I still have it somewhere, and that was one thing that got me to think like, oh, each comic is drawn differently. It's not
Mhm.
just like you have to draw this way or this way.
I
You can
wonder if
have
it
your
wasn't the
yeah.
Dennis Cowan stuff
I don't
because
know.
his style
Yeah,
is kind of like you
I
kind of
do
described
remember
it.
there was a lot of like violence in it, but like kind of domestic violence and gang violence, and I do remember have this guy having like a gun and it, like a bunch of smaller guns come out of it. It was just so weird. Like Steele was in prison. That's all I remember. He was in jail,
Okay.
and that was my first shot. Yeah.
And then so as you got older, when would you say with the first comic book was that you drew? Like when did you first start actually like producing stuff yourself? Because
So yeah, I mean, I've been making comics like myself, like just small ones since I was 10 years old, but I never finish it because I have always been I criticize myself so much to where okay maybe next year I'll be better, so I'll just finish it next year, and then by that next year I say I'll be better next year again, so it's like a constant loop. So I the first comic I actually finished is Space Knights. So like uh, this comic right here, this is it. This is the
this
very
is
first comic.
this is the very first comic
Yeah,
book you published.
exactly, and it
You
finished.
realize, like, I'm not trying to like give like inflate your ego or anything, but my God, dude, this is a hell of a first book. I
Thank
thought for
you.
sure there was something else.
I mean, I
What the
made there was one comic called Nightlight, but the same thing. I wasn't happy with it, but this time it was a story. I finished it, quote unquote, but I never put it out. I
okay.
wasn't very proud of the story, but I liked the drawings, but the story I wasn't, good with. So in next time, I was like, okay, I'm gonna change some stuff. I know I can finish it now, but I need to produce something I can proudly share to people.
Yeah, I
So
mean, you should be very proud of this work.
yeah. Thank you.
It's awesome. I mean, it fits so in line with so much of the stuff that like I've been digging over the past, especially the past couple of years. Definitely perfect for the kayfabe group. You know what I mean? Like this is definitely the perfect type of book to have there. What was the thoughts behind this? Like the idea behind this book? It's an anthology. You did everything yourself, right? You colored
Yeah,
it, you
everything
lettered
is me.
it.
Yeah, yeah,
Is
yeah.
this now? Is this okay? First, tell me like the whole idea
Sure.
behind it.
So I used to, well, not used to. I love Star Wars. I love Lord of the Rings. That's what I grew up on as a kid.
Mhm.
And so, but I was really into fantasy. So I drew this as actually a fantasy story when I was making it first. And then at some point, I started getting into like very retro sci-fi. Like
Mhm.
I would start looking at pulp books, like the covers of it, and I got into Mobius, and I just this route of like old sci-fi, and I just been in love with it. And I was like, oh man, it'd be cool if I can make a story with just sci-fi. But then I've been working on this, fantasy world for so long, it's so big. And my partner, we were talking about it, and she said, why don't you just make combine the both and then, like put the knights in space. I'm like, that's it. Maybe that works. And then, so I just started, making trying to see if it would work, and it did work. And I drew up scenes, and story just blended in, and I just got so excited. That same day, I started drawing the first page of how it would look and just the feel of it. So yeah,
From the stories, the art, the lettering, the coloring, the way you package the book, it is it's such a it's such a great collection of varying stories, and you really just like, I mean, you're showcasing all of your talents like perfectly, I
thank
think,
you,
in this
thank you.
book. Are you drawing traditionally
Yeah,
too?
this is
All
all
just
traditional.
hell yeah.
So I penciled, inked them, and now the only thing I did digitally is color and some lettering. Most of the lettering in the comic itself is hand.
Yes, I
Yeah,
mean that's, dude, I fucking love hand lettering.
yeah.
And that's what I was
So
gonna say. I'm like, there's no way there's a font of some of this stuff. I'm like, he had to have.
yeah, there's the thing is because the comic I told you that I finished but I never put out.
Mhm.
That one I didn't hand letter, and because I was afraid of hand lettering. Everyone at first was afraid of it because it's permanent. You can't change it. And at the point when I was lettering, I'm like, man, this is so tedious. I don't like it. It seems out of place to the comic. And that's when I started watching cartoons Kayfabe, and they talk about lettering being this big thing. I'm like, you know what? What if I just letter my own comic? And when I started lettering it, I was more happy with the way it looked because it's on the page. When you're drawing it, it's there, and it fit more with the art. So, and I felt finished, and I don't have to go to Adobe Illustrator no more to work up
Mhm.
the balloons that would if they would fit, and God hope they would fit. And this one, you already know it fits because you just did it on pencils or something.
Mhm.
So yeah,
And how, like the whole, like from the color of the paper, which is like an off-white, which gives
yeah,
it that old retro feel. Even to some of the coloring that kind of is reminiscent of something that you would see, in like the 70s or the 80s.
yeah.
Was that like also a really important aspect that you
It
wanted for
was.
the book?
Yeah, it definitely was. I wanted to be colorful because like I've been reading some comics that are just so dull and brown. And then I started noticing the stuff I'm liking a lot is the more colorful and wild stuff, like Saga, Paper Girls,
Mhm.
those very wild sci-fi things. And I'm like, I want that in my book. And I started looking at Jack Kirby's art, and then the very colorful and weird extreme colors out there. I'm like, why don't we do this more? And like, I'm just gonna make that a staple in my comic. Just use that. And I'm not gonna use browns or anything. Just yeah,
Yeah, I mean, just the cover alone, like you said, I mean, this thing is,
yeah.
it
So
it pops, bro. It pops for sure. So can you like talk a little bit about the fact that you wanted to do an anthology, that you didn't want to come out with just a singular story, right? And kind of describe to everybody listening and watching that hasn't had a chance to pick up the book a little bit
mhm.
about the stories that they can expect in it if they pick it up. And like, is it available still in print, or is it all only digital as of right now?
Sure. Right now it's only digital. I actually just released it recently in digital, so that's available right now for that. And I'll talk about the anthology aspect, why I went with that way. Because when I was writing the story for it, but it was a fantasy story, I had so much characters and in different aspects of the world that I wanted to tell all of them, but then I couldn't. So I was like, I have to focus on one guy and tell a whole story. But then I've noticed that if I do that, I usually get bored too fast. And so I was like, I need a way to separate these characters into different, to say chapters of a book. And then I started looking at heavy metal in 2000 AD, where they have those anthology features. Like, why don't I just do that with my book? So, it's just except I'm only one dude doing all this stuff. And I thought too, was like this would be a great way to world build because it's such a big, the universe that I can do different characters showing a different view of that world and what they do in that, that aspect of that world. And so I did that, and I think it just works really well when I did the anthology thing. It just made me feel like I can express myself more with the story, and I didn't get bored fast because there would be like 15 pages, 20, and then like, okay, that's it, and next. And if I get bored of one thing, I can just move on to the next one and come back. So it gives me a lot of leeway that way.
Okay, and then okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you first. You were still talking, so.
Oh, what was the other question again? You said the anthology and digital.
I don't know. We'll go. Well, I'll just ask you the next question.
No
I
worries.
can't remember. It was a long week, dude.
You're good. You're good.
So, first of all, anthology to me is something that's missing. I mean, even though it's a one-man anthology, I do miss that aspect, and I have noticed you're starting to see, like, especially DC, even though it's all Batman shit, but we're starting to see anthologies come back a little bit more, and I think that it's definitely something that's missing on the stands. So that's what really gravitated. Besides your cover, which looked dope as fuck, and then I saw your art. I'm like, I love that it's an anthology. I love that we're getting a little bit of taste of different types of stories. What's your ultimate goal with this? Like moving forward.
Yeah, I want to keep going. The issue 2 would just continue the stories of these guys, and I want to expand more as I get more time to work on it. For now, it's only technically 3 stories, but I always include a prologue, so technically 4. And I want to make these characters grow, and then some of these stories will end. So let's say the 3rd story ends, I can put another story there, while the other 2 keeps going, and then you have another new 3rd story in there too. So I want it to be that way as it keeps going. So it just picks up, and until ends, I guess.
Yeah. And did you do like this was released like during the pandemic?
It was.
So
yeah,
when did you first start working on it?
I worked on it. Let's see. I was graduating college. Actually, 2019. By the end of 2019, and I finished it. In the middle of the pandemic, 2020. So yeah.
Do you feel like that time in lockdown kind of
like it got
it
like it helped because like at first I had school and I had work, and I would do it. I would work on this at work during lunch. I would just grab a board and I would just ink it and draw there. And I get home, if I have extra time, I'll do it. And then when the pandemic hit, I got laid off a job, and then I just do class online. So sometimes I would work on it while in class, and I just had so much time. I was like, oh, I can do more. So yeah.
And like you mentioned, like the Kayfabe channel too, and I think that you mentioned in correlation with your lettering and how important that is, right? Was the channel and in turn the group really inspiring you too, and kind of motivating you to kind of get your work out?
Definitely, it did. Like seeing the mailbag episodes, like I was like, man, I want to be there. Like I just want to put it there, and so it just pushed me so much. And seeing the group when they put out work, and then I think it was I didn't release it yet. It was during when the Wizard thing came out, and I was just so inspired seeing other people just put out their work. And like I said, to me, I always heavily criticize my work, and I always say I'm not ready. And seeing people already putting up their work and not caring if they're ready or not, I was like, why don't you just do that? Just do it. And I got through it. I pushed through it, and I finished. And then so, yeah, I think it was something about what's it called? I think it was Episcore that said it. That just put it out there. Don't just keep putting more work. Doesn't matter if it's like it's bad or not. Just keep putting it out there. And so it really pushed me.
Yeah, I think that even for someone like myself who's not an artist, right? And I probably could write, like, I mean, I've said this too multiple times to multiple people when I'm talking to them. Like, if I sat down and did it, I'm sure I could. But they inspired me in a different way, to where I finally am like, everybody told me, why don't you just do a YouTube channel? Why do you just write? Like, why don't you can't get that passion across of what you like the same as if when you're talking, and like, you know what I mean? And that's what the pandemic helped me do that. Like much like you had the time. Well, fuck, I wasn't working either. So I'm like, I'm just gonna start recording fucking videos. I'm gonna start recording the podcast. And I think the group too, even if you're not a creator, man, like just watching people do what they love is inspiring.
It is, yeah.
In any aspect of your life, like it's just such a great motivator. And I think that what Ed and Jim have done, and Tom too, because Tom's part of the, the
Yeah,
creator, what they've done by inspiring a group, and then that group, what this group has in turn done, it's just crazy. It's crazy to see, man. It's super crazy to see.
It's like it's the amazing thing about it's like a support group to itself,
Yeah.
Like these a bunch of artists, and I guess non-artists, but I call them artists anyways. Like we all support each other in many ways, financially or just like just looking at people's work. I think this book would not be, I would, would it be without the group? Like if I'd never found Kayfabe, I don't think I would finish this at all, or even like sell it out, So yeah, it's like a safe place. There's exactly, so it's great.
I know. I sometimes I may not like respond to comments, but sometimes I'll just read the comments. Like,
honestly, too. Yeah,
like, yeah. I'll just read all the positive like feedback that people give each other. I'm like, God damn, dude. Never, like, not in my 25 plus years of reading, 29. You know what I mean? Like 29 years. I've never seen such a positive collection of people.
My favorite part about the group is when someone posts someone bought someone else's book. And I see that, and like they're just supporting it. It's like, oh, I got this guy's book, and then it just feels great, So, yeah.
Well, I mean, so what's next for you? Like, what do you got cooking in the works?
So I'm working on the second issue of Space Knights. I finished the script, and I've been just doing some thumbnails and pencils in there. But right now, I'm working on a group of people. I can't talk much about it. I signed an NDA. So getting in trouble, but that one I've been heavily working on, so it's pretty exciting from what it's doing. Just I can say this: it's if what you see from Space Knights, it's gonna translate well to what I'm doing. So these guys hired me for a reason.
I mean, that's fucking awesome, dude. Like, you just put out this book and you're getting hired by other people to work on other things. You know what I mean? Like I love hearing shit like that, dude. It also, again, inspires me, and I'm sure it inspires other people that, want to put out their work, or, hear you say that, I was nervous to put it out. I'm very hard on myself. I hear that all the time. I mean, all these paintings behind me are my wife's. I constantly have been hearing for years about, oh man, it's not good. It's not done. I'm like, it is. And then she'll fuck with it, for like a few more hours. And I'm like, okay, that does look really, like, it does look better. I mean, I didn't see it at first, but like I see now that, like, all that kind of stuff. So to see you from going from a place where you're like, oh man, I don't know if I want to do this, I don't know if I'm ready, to just being like, fuck it, and putting it out there, and you're selling out, and you're working on other stuff. Like, I can't wait to see what else you got cooking up, man. I'm very excited.
Yeah, me too. Like, I think finishing the first one, when I was doing the colors, there was a lot of stuff like, man, I wish I'd done this instead, done this thing. There's a lot of corrections in my mind, and I kept trying to push myself. No, you can do it in the next one. So instead of me saying just stop and restart, I just said just do it on the next issue. And I think that's what helped me get through to finish it. And so that's pretty cool too.
What would you say were the biggest lessons you learned from like putting this out, being your first like published book?
Yeah. Well, one is time management. That was one of the things I learned. And there's a lot of technical stuff I've learned. Mostly for printing and coloring papers. There's a lot of research on that. I learned you can't have too many heavy dark inks, because the paper sometimes buckle depending on how thick the paper is. There's a lot of that stuff I didn't know about, printing. And because in your screen you have to calibrate it to make sure it matches the printers, right? And that was doing like heavy coloring stuff. That was one of the things I had to learn. Shipping was one of them. That was the craziest part. And I was learning about websites and what to do, what to use, what boxes. It was a lot of that. It was a lot of logistics, but the actual comic itself was like, I think it was actually the easiest part, was just drawing it, which is crazy because everything else was just non-art, I would say. And that's where I learned the most. And with digital, when I was coloring, I learned a lot of shortcuts, because when you do flats for the colors, it gets repetitive. It's like, so I just started trying to find some shortcuts through that. And I think I can do better now next time, because I made like a whole palette for each character or race of person, whatever. So
Okay.
yeah.
And besides comics, did you think, I mean, you talked about animation being something you wanted to do. Is that something that you might want to revisit in the future? Or do you
I
think comics
do.
is where it's at?
I think comics is where it's at, but I still love animation. I have dabbled in it a couple times, but nothing, too drastic. I did want to learn more because I wasn't taught too much about it. But yeah, other than that, yeah, I think comics is where I'm gonna be for a long
Okay.
time. So yeah, or yeah, like a hobby for animation if I ever have the time.
And then as of now, like who do you draw, like who's really influential to you? What creators are
Ooh,
you looking at?
yeah. Right now I'm looking at Daniel Warren Johnson. I'm still looking at Jack Kirby all the time, but right now is James Herron the most. Uh, Ultra Mega just
That book is dope.
blew my mind. Like I read what's that called? It was the scarecrow looking dude. I forgot his name.
Oh, is that Rumble? Is that
Rumble. Yeah, that's the first book I saw in Rumble, and I liked it a lot. But Ultra Mega just stepped up his game. Like, how can this guy get better? And he did. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
insane. And then everything was there where I was talking about the colors,
Mhm.
so it was there. It was the perfect book for me, and it influenced me so much. Now, that's what I always look at when I'm drawing to inspire me. Like when I'm in the morning, I look at it like, okay, this is the standard.
You listen to any kind of music? Is there any music that you
Um,
use, or do you need quiet when you're
no, actually, it's weird for when I'm writing for scripts. I need some kind of instrumental music, but it has to fit the feel of the story. It's
uh-huh.
such a weird thing. I can't just play a sad song when there's an epic scene in the comic, right? So I have to match that. So I go on YouTube and put battle ambiance or something.
Yeah.
And then when I'm drawing, that's when I can play regular music. But sometimes when I'm drawing, like a battle scene in the book in Space Knights, when I was drawing the cavalry charge in the end, I was playing heavy metal music. It was just getting me going. So,
Yeah.
you know, it changes drastically at different times. So, yeah, I listen to a lot of genres. So,
I
yeah,
get it. I mean, I'm the same way. If I'm in
yeah,
the if I'm in the
it's
kitchen,
yeah, it's
I
mostly
put
like just the mood.
yeah.
That's what gets me. So, yeah.
I mean, yeah, when I'm like getting ready for the day, like before I know it's gonna be like the weekend, it'll be really busy at the restaurant. So
Mm-hmm.
I put on like I'll put like Rage Against the Machine or System of a Down, just to kind of hype me up and get me like awake in the
Yeah,
morning because it's early as fuck. I mean, like I'm in there
yeah,
at 6 a.m. So I gotta like just get hyped up for the day. So
yeah.
yeah, I was just kind of curious. It's something I sometimes I forget to ask people. Like I love like J.H. Williams, right? With Echolands. I don't know if you've picked that up yet.
No, not yet. No.
It's an amazing book. 2 issues have been out. They're
Was it called
doing Echolands. It's coming out from
Echolands?
Image.
All
Yeah.
right.
So he's like issue one came out, right? And then issue two and the raw cut version of issue
Mm,
one comes out. So every time a new issue comes out, the new raw cut comes out for the
that's
previous
cool.
issue. And it's like his pencils before they get to the colorist and the
Oh,
inker. You know
that's
what I
nice.
mean?
Yeah,
It's really awesome. But he has like 4 pages of the music he was listening to.
that's cool.
And it's not just songs, it's albums that he listened to while creating.
Dang.
So like I think
Because
that
yeah, because it really influences you the way you work. Because like there's
Mhm.
moments when I'm inking or just just doing pencils and the music. I just let the music play and then I know where a sad song comes in, but I don't notice it. I start to drastically get bored and then get down. I'm like, wait, what the hell's going on? And like I notice my music is like, oh, I'm playing this like sad song. Why am I doing this? And so I have to pick up that energy back. That's kind of cool that they put the like what's his name, the artist you're talking about?
J.H. Williams the third.
Okay, I've
So
never
he
heard of
did,
him actually. It's weird.
oh dude, yeah. I mean he
Yeah.
did Promethea with Alan Moore. He did
Okay.
Sandman Overture with Neil Gaiman. He did
Oh, yeah. Okay, never mind.
it's
I
kind of
don't
like
know his
painted.
name. Yeah, I don't know his name, but I know his work. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
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 dude.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean, he was so like I talked to him recently and he's just a blast to talk to. He instantly became one of my favorite people in
That's
comics,
awesome. That's
just
awesome.
having that conversation with him.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that I like that supplemental material too. And that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
that's why when I can remember to ask the question, I like asking it because it's always cool to put the creator's influence, right? Especially if it's music, to what you're reading or looking at. Because then you're kind of like, okay, I can see that was probably what he's listening to when he's doing that. And you can kind of like figure stuff out and stuff like that, like Excellence. I don't know if you've read that book from Image. Kari Randolph, the artist, he
Mhm.
ended up doing a Spotify playlist for the book.
Yeah, I think Daniel Warren Johnson did it too for Murder Falcon. And
Yeah.
so when I
Yeah.
was reading it, I was like, oh, I gotta play his playlist, and it just fit. You can tell what the energy is coming from when he's drawing those pages.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome.
It's just great. So
Yeah.
I wish we can have that more. So that's a good idea. I might put it in there.
Yeah, you should do a Space
Yeah,
Nights Spotify playlist.
that'd be cool.
Yeah. So besides the books you're working on and stuff, before I let you go, I do want to ask. Besides, and you already said your influences and stuff, but what books have you been reading? What have you been really digging that's been coming out lately? What are you checking out?
I just finished Ultra Mega. What was the other one? I have like a good reading pile here. Oh, National Anthem. Jared Way. What's that one called? You know
I
what
know
I'm
what
talking
you're
about?
talking about. The
Yeah,
recent series.
yeah. They just had the whole volume came out, and that was great. I mostly read a lot of old stuff. Oh, man, actually haven't been reading recently. I've been listening to more audiobooks. Um,
Okay.
Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology. I just finished that, and that's amazing, and it's great. But for comics, yeah, I don't remember much. I mean, look at here, real quick. I bought a lot of books recently,
Oh, dude,
but most of them are art books. I'm looking at what's his name? He did the art for Blade Runner. He just passed away recently too. Oh shoot, I'm forgetting these names. But I buy a lot of art books from there. A lot of sci-fi art books. So I've been just trying to get my visuals on because I'm trying to influence myself more into what I want to do for the second issue. But yeah.
And do you like it? So you like a lot of the artist editions then too?
Yeah, that's the wallet killer right there.
Yeah,
I have
wallet killers. That's
yeah.
still mild. That's the fucking. You walk in the door, your wife yells at you.
Dude.
That's what those are.
Like out of nowhere, my partner's like, "Wait, you bought the Jack Kirby artist edition? Like, when did you get that?" I'm like, "Oh, just today."
Yeah,
I have
dude.
that. I have the Hellboy in Hell one, Ronin, the Sin City one,
Nice.
and yeah, like, and then the Kayfabe. Every time they put up a video of like a good book, I'm like, I gotta get that. And so
They've cost
that's
me
what it
so
is.
much.
Yeah,
They've cost me so much money, bro.
yeah.
It's not even funny. I have probably. I thought it was 3, but it's about 4 short boxes of single issues that I still need to read. I have probably like 25 trades, and then I kept buying. And now when the artist editions come out, I'm so scared that they're gonna go up. So I just buy them.
Yeah, that too. Like
I'm
for me, it's just funny. Like I was like, if a video comes out, I'm like, I know for a fact that price of that book is gonna go up,
yeah,
or or it's just gonna run out. You won't see it ever again.
yeah. I mean, like
Yeah.
the ones I bought. I think I have the Jaime Hernandez one. I got the Ed Piscor Studio Edition. I got lucky and got the Spawn Artist Edition.
Oh yeah.
If somebody brought it into the shop I was working at, I was like, and just gave it. He's like, he's in the comic industry.
That's awesome.
And I was like, I bought it. I paid for it. But I'm like, dude, let me get that. Like let me buy that book. So he gave it to me for cover price. Or no, he gave it to me for my discount off of the regular cover price.
That's still way better than.
Oh yeah, dude, it's like 3 bills on eBay. And then the minute the Jim Lee X-Men one was announced, I made sure.
Oh yeah, that one.
I scooped that one.
Yeah, it's like I stopped when I bought the New Gods Jack Kirby because I was like, I don't have space. That's what I forget. When I'm at the comic store, I'm like, I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get that. When I get home, I'm like, oh shit, what am I gonna put this?
I know.
So yeah.
Behind my wife's painting are boxes just piled in the corner.
It's like underneath my desk. That's why I'm blanking out. I was like, wait, what am I reading? Because I've just been buying books and then looking at art books. One art book I'm looking at, Ashley Wood. I've been trying to collect all his work. It's really hard. It's really hard to find them, and most of them are expensive. Yeah. So I got lucky with this one, and it's like a collection of it, which is pretty cool. What's his name? He did the Goon. That's what I read.
Eric Powell.
Eric Powell. I love his work.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Love his work. It's too funny. I just love it.
Yeah.
But yeah. That's it.
All right, cool, man. Well, thank you again for chatting with me. I had a blast, and I definitely would love to have you back on the show again next time you have another project you want to promote. I'm always happy to help.
I'm down. Yeah.
But for everybody listening, watching, where can they find you online? All the social media stuff, and then where can they buy the book as well?
Sure. So you can find me online in two ways. Instagram is going to be @Catalan_art. That's KCATALAN_art. And my website would be kcatalan.com. Sorry, kcatalanart.com. And that's where you can get the digital copy of Space Knights, which is right here.
Yeah.
But this, I just recently put it out. It's all there. Nothing's different. I think it looks better digital because more colors. Your screen can produce more than a printed book. But I love print books, so
I guess.
yeah.
I mean, I'll let you say that, but I mean,
No, I love prints. I always
I-
do prints, but like sometimes,
Yeah.
like, man, I can do more with digital. I wish you can do that in a book.
No. I get it, but there's just something about like I said when I told you that the packaging of the book was so good. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like that's important to me, like the paper stock.
Oh,
all
me
that
too.
stuff.
That definitely.
So,
That's what I was going for.
yeah.
That's why it took me so long to do the digital. I'm like, I feel like it's losing a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I said too, like this is an amazing book. So for anybody listening and watching, definitely go pick up the book. It's even though it's digital and you can't get it in print. Then you'll be caught up when the second one drops, and make sure you
Yeah.
get that one.
Well, I'm planning to reprint it when the second one comes in, so you
Okay.
can in the future you can get those. But right now it's digital.
All right,
Yeah,
cool.
forever. So
All right, man. Well, again,
right.
thank you so much, and we'll do this again in the future, dude.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan.